Hello there, welcome to my channel. Andaza Hezekiah here, AH for Truth. Okay, so I want to bring some encouragement to XRP holders. If you're an XRP holder, I want to let you know that there is no reason to worry. There is something called intrinsic value. If you were to go to Investopedia and you were to find out what that means, you would be mighty encouraged because the reality is that there is such a thing. And the purpose of that is to help you realize what the value of an asset really is. You look at the fundamentals, you look at what it is that the asset, like, I mean, I could go on, but I would encourage you go to Investopedia and just look for intrinsic value. And so XRP has intrinsic value. All right. But when it comes to Bitcoin maxis, people who've made money from Bitcoin, there's a lot of concern with how they present Bitcoin and things like that. And, they're very loud at this time with regard to XRP. The FUD is only increasing. I was watching the other day some videos from, a gentleman who found Bitcoin when it was $1 and he bought it and now he's worth a lot of money. Again, he just keeps saying, "Oh, Bitcoin isn't going to go anywhere," and now, sorry, XRP isn't going to go anywhere. Get rid of that thing. And when it got to $2, he said, "Well, the highest it can go is $2.50." It almost seems like he's doing it deliberately, and I wouldn't. I believe that he actually has um, XRP stashed somewhere. All right. So as I continue today, I want to share this video with you from Lynette Zang of Zang Enterprises, and let's listen into what she has to say. And just before we get in, I want to say to you, if you are just joining the channel, if you're newly subscribed, or you are someone who is looking for information with respect to cryptocurrency, you're new in the space, or you've been accumulating for a while, but you fully don't understand it, but you just believe something in you tells you this is what you need to do. Okay, I put a new ebook together that you can finish reading in 2 hours. And by the third hour, if you've never bought before, you've bought at some point, you can become more confident in what you're doing. All right. The book will also refresh those who have been in it for a while. So in the description, you can grab your copy by just clicking on the link, or in the comments also, I believe there's a pinned comment there that you could click on the link and get that ebook. All right, let's move into this video and let's see what Lynette Zang has to say about Bitcoin.
What I've said is I think what they're looking to do is to pump the price of Bitcoin so they can swap it for land. So if I'm the whales and I'm a small percentage of the Bitcoin owners, but I have, what would you say, 60 to 70% of the outstanding Bitcoin?
So I'm not sure, honestly. I think like just even one Bitcoin, you're in the top 1% of holders, just having one Bitcoin.
But you have a very high concentration of ownership in a small number of hands.
Sure, that's what
right.
That's what
right.
I mean.
So you have whales. There's no way for the whales to get out, but if they can swap for land, if they can swap the federal government, because we know Howard Lutnick has been very aggressive about talking about the fact that the U.S. balance sheet has $500 trillion worth of land and mineral resources. If you can use government purchases to run the value of Bitcoin up and swap it for the land, in theory, I think what these guys are going to do is propose that is revenue neutral. If you're 63% of Utah is federal land. It's even more. I think it's 67% in Idaho. And that's very beautiful, very valuable land. If you can run the price of Bitcoin up and swap it and say it's revenue neutral, you can basically swap nothing for something and get that land for free. It's a land grab. So I got to tell you, Bitcoin's totally a Ponzi scheme. It is a Ponzi scheme, and it's value.
Again, I'm not here endorsing Lynette Zang or anybody or this podcast or saying, but I have questions that are common sense related. I'm saying to myself, if I was to buy Bitcoin now, I don't have gajillion dollars to invest in it, hoping that it will get to $1 million one day. And so she calls it a Ponzi scheme. You know what? That's her opinion. I mean, like, it doesn't have a chairperson. It doesn't have a board of directors. It doesn't, like, I don't know. They say we don't know who created it. It's some individual. Like, I don't get get it. Let's just listen.
Value depends on where the people pumping the Ponzi scheme want to take it. And as Larry Fink said, if they want to take it to 700,000, they can.
There you go.
But when they do that, that's how they're going to strip out the remaining assets of the United States government, a lot of other governments. It's going to depend on a rape of the taxpayer.
Yeah, Michael Saylor's pyramid scheme, right? Just keeps issuing more and more bonds to buy Bitcoin. It really depends on who buys the next bond issuance of MicroStrategy.
Right.
You set it up, it's exactly like a pyramid scheme, and I think it ends in disaster, right, as the government makes a strategic.
Well, it's going to end in disaster. The question is, who's the last investor in the Ponzi scheme?
That's the question. Who's the last investor? Now, I don't know the future of Bitcoin, but you know what? When people ask me, well, what do you think? And there's arguments going on about Bitcoin and XRP and XLM, and I'm like, with $1,000, I can buy XPR at 0.004 and change today. XPR, what's Proton, and which is going to be Metallica's blockchain. They're going to be doing a lot of work with credit unions. I can be looking forward. See, I'm looking at utility. I'm looking at intrinsic value, and that's what I'm talking about. Like let's just finish listening to this and see. It's got like maybe a few minutes left. Let's listen.
That who's going to eat the disaster? Well, I'm going to do everything I can. No, they won't get bailed out because now you're talking about, they will swap it for the land. They will take the land, and so you're gonna take $500 trillion of priceless resources. And you're going to make Rockefeller kind of, fortunes for a lot of private insiders. That's what it's going to be. Then we end up like Russia with lots of horrible oligarchs. It's going to be very. Anyway, so I intend to do everything I can to stop it. But here's the thing, and I don't mean to brag, but if you let me engineer state and local, give a lot of political contributions and engineer state and local, purchases of silly putty, I could run the silly putty price up to 700,000 too. It's a no-brainer. Anyway, so if you have a Bitcoin position, essentially you're involved in a political speculation, and you've got to, it's not an economic phenomenon. You've got to track the politics of it, and for God's sakes, get your principal out before the game's up.
So she says you are in a political situation. You're not in an economic miracle or reality. So that's the kind of thing I think about. And I ask myself, like, if like you're holding this and you're wondering, like, where are like all of the argument about, XRP is not this, is not that, and such and such and such. It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, this is Lynette again, saying something with respect to her position. Like, let's listen to this.
About the Bitcoin.
It's 5 minutes. I'm not going to let it go that long, but let's just listen to a few things she's got to say. It's on this video. Is a U.S. Bitcoin reserve a strategic move or risk?
The crypto reserve that they're putting in. Does this make sense? I mean, you guys know how I feel about Bitcoin. Some things do make a lot of sense, other things not so much. The working group shall evaluate the potential creation and maintenance of a national digital asset stockpile and propose criteria for establishing such a stockpile, potentially derived from cryptocurrencies lawfully seized by the federal government through its law enforcement efforts. Frankly, this to me makes a whole lot of sense, believe it or not. But it's that potentially piece that could be a little problematic. You always have to wonder when they write these things, they typically will write them in a way that gives them a whole lot more leeway. And this is the government's stockpile of cryptocurrencies. Now, look, they've got about a little bit more than 17 billion in there. And by a wide margin, wide, Bitcoin is what they have the most of. Next, I think it's the Tether. The US dollar, the stable coin would be the second, but it's so far below what they have in Bitcoin. So let's just keep going. Does it make sense to manage the seized cryptos? 100% it makes sense to manage these. But there is the difference between a stockpile where you're just kind of accumulating them and a reserve, which kind of makes you think that they're going to do something with them. So let's just keep going on, because honestly, I think it makes sense. They're doing that anyway. They might as well have somebody that knows what they're doing in there managing these crypto.
So she says that with the reserve, they're going to do something with them. She doesn't say that emphatically. She's suggesting that when you have a reserve, they're going to do, of course. It's like a sovereign wealth fund. It's like the reserve has a purpose, and that's to help bring down the U.S. debt and to, of course, strengthen the U.S. financial position. Because think about it, when you are owing on your credit card or several credit cards, you are in a weak position if your income isn't able to pay off the minimum payment on those credit cards. And even if you are paying off the minimum payment, you will die not paying it off. And that's the situation where the U.S. is, as they continue to print money senselessly and all that stuff. But they're going to do something with it. And you think if the U.S. government decides to go the way of the reserve, which they will go, which they will do, but the Bitcoiners are like, oh, no, we can't be left holding the bag. Somebody. So in my opinion, they're attracting all these people to come and buy Bitcoin. Come and buy Bitcoin. It's a burden to those who are holding it. Believe me, the billionaires who have Bitcoin, like, who are they going to sell it to? You, me, who else? Right? Who? Because, listen, even governments want to invest in something. It's only corruption that make governments say, oh, okay, we can invest in something that doesn't give us any money, the country any money, and make the people rich. But it makes us and our cronies rich. And it creates, like Lynette Zang said in the first video I showed you, creates this oligarchy. People who are wealthy to obscene amounts, and the people remain poor, and the gap just keeps getting wider and wider and wider and wider and wider between the poor and the rich. And they build their Elysium. There's this movie Elysium where they build this place out in space or whatever. But I could say whatever I want to say. There are people who never agree, who never believe, but I hope that I reach someone today. I hope that somebody hears what I'm saying. Look, if you're new to the space and you're wondering what's going on, you know what? Take it back to the beginning. Watch it again. Go watch my playlist on XRP, ISO 222 cryptos, and I hope you learn a thing or two. But be encouraged. If you're holding XRP, if you're holding any of the ISO coins, these are coins with utility. They are not pet rocks. They have somewhere they're going. They have something that they do. If you like what you've watched so far, please like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. By the way, thank you for 2,700 plus subscribers, going to us 2,800 and then 3,000. And thank you to all those who bought my book. I appreciate you for downloading the book. I've introduced it to my community, my subscribers here to begin with, and hopefully by God's grace in April we'll be going out to the rest of the world. God bless. Have a great one. See you in the next one.